This is BBC One, where we're running just over 5 minutes late. Now the BBC News with George Alagaya.
Russia tightens its grip on the Chechen capital, Grozny. Its soldiers leave a trail of devastation as they edge closer. Voted Sportsman of the Century by BBC viewers. Good evening. The Russian army is reported to have captured an airbase on the outskirts of the Chechen capital, Grozny. Its forces spent the day dropping leaflets on the city, warning people to leave before shelling starts again. There's confusion at the borders, with hundreds of cars and trucks blocking routes in and out of the territory. Our special correspondent, Ben Brown, has been inside Chechnya and sent us this report.
The Russians are closing in on Grozny. Tonight they say they've taken an airbase on its outskirts. Gradually, they are tightening the noose on the capital, but sooner or later they have to capture it too. Until they control Grozny, the Kremlin cannot say they control Chechnya. We need to take it, says this soldier. We must wipe out the bandits and bring peace. Outside Grozny, the Russians now have most of Chechnya, what's left of it, that is. Moscow says this is liberated territory. The rebels say it's occupied. What no one can doubt is that it's devastated. The farms are full of dead livestock. The landscape is littered with unexploded bombs. Even when this war is finally over, there'll be a lethal legacy. The sheer level of devastation inside Chechnya almost beggars belief. Whole areas of the Republic were flattened in the last war that ended 3 years ago. Now, many of the buildings that were left standing then have been destroyed as well. If the Russians have won this war, there's no great prize to show for it. Just outside Grozny, this woman says that first the Russians shelled her house, then they looted it. She wonders where to start rebuilding her life. Look, she says, they've taken everything from my home. Is this the way soldiers fight? And there are other allegations that Russian soldiers have carried out atrocities here. They're killing civilians, says this woman. They drag them out of cellars and shoot them. She claims about 50 people have been murdered in her hometown. Despite all this, the roads have been clogged today with thousands of refugees going back to Chechnya. They were heading for areas of the Republic where the Russians are now in charge and where at least the fighting is over. Some of these people have endured such misery as refugees, they couldn't get home fast enough. They were clambering onto trucks and buses. They don't know what the future holds for them in Chechnya, but they believe it must be better than the refugee camps. We're taking a risk, says this woman. May God help us. Ben Brown, BBC News, Chechnya.
The Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, is to hand over day-to-day responsibility for transport policy to Lord MacDonald, one of his ministers. A government spokesman said Mr Prescott will still have overall control and denied the move was a response to criticism of his department's performance.
John Prescott's under pressure from critics who say he's the wrong man in the wrong job. This famous occasion, when he used his ministerial car to travel 200 yards, only helped convince them he'd never sort out the country's transport problems. Now it's emerged he's handing day-to-day control of his toughest brief to another minister in his own department. Lord MacDonald will take over that control, and he'll manage the 10-year transport strategy his boss will spell out in a big speech tomorrow.
The Deputy Prime Minister is outlining tomorrow a 10-year vision of how we'll invest to keep Britain moving. And what he'll be asking me to do is to draw together this 10-year plan.
But it's a tough job. Improving the rail service was a big task even before the Paddington disaster raised new fears about safety. Road congestion's a big problem. Solutions like road charging risk unpopularity at election time. The Tories want more than a shuffling of portfolios.
Mr Prescott clearly couldn't cope with his responsibilities. It's a huge department and he obviously wasn't up to the job. But it's no good just shifting the chairs around. They're either going to change the policies, and we will welcome that, But if they're just changing the faces, but they don't change the policies, then we're still stuck with Standstill Britain and things aren't going to get any better.
Mr. Prescott's sharing more power with his team, but his empire will remain intact. He's Deputy Prime Minister, but he also runs a huge department. He's in charge of the environment, from green issues to local government. His regional brief takes in further devolution, and he'll keep ultimate responsibility for transport. Tomorrow, John Prescott will announce Lord Macdonald's new role and higher profile. He'll promise more money for transport and ideas including trams and monorail systems in city centres. Here at the department, no one's denying that John Prescott's been under pressure, or the policy presentation has sometimes been poor. Ministers and officials are hoping that Lord Macdonald's bigger role will help answer those who say that John Prescott's taken on too much and that transport needs to be hived off to a separate department with a cabinet minister of its own. John Pienaar, BBC News, at the Department of the Environment, Transport and the Regions.
A tanker with more than 20,000 tonnes of oil on board has split in two off the west coast of France. Rescue helicopters have picked up all 26 crew members. The tanker is sinking 50 miles south of Brest towards the Bay of Biscay.
Its back broken, the doomed Maltese-registered tanker lies stricken on the high seas 50 miles off the Brittany coast. The Erika, carrying over 20,000 tonnes of oil, split in two soon after daybreak, en route from Dunkirk to Italy. It started sinking. The wind was gale force strength. French Coast Guards launched a rescue operation to save the 26 crew members and asked their counterparts in Cornwall to send helicopters. 2 Sea Kings were scrambled from the Royal Navy Air Station Culdrose.
Initially we saw the bow of the ship, the supertanker, which was just about sticking out of the water, and then about a quarter of a mile away was the rest of the superstructure, which was half under the water as well.
One British aircrew helped search the area and shot these pictures of a French helicopter winching up the tanker crew from a lifeboat. There were reports of a small oil slick from the sinking ship, and amid concern for the coastline, France activated an emergency anti-pollution plan. Tugboats were sent to tow the Erika further out to sea. George Eakin, BBC News.
The former Conservative Minister Stephen Norris has strongly criticised party colleagues who blocked him from running as the Tory candidate for Mayor of London. He says that the selection committee's decision to reject him was fundamentally undemocratic and has warned of a possible backlash from grassroots members.
Stephen Norris's dream, if not the prospect of any Conservative becoming Mayor of London, has been ruined in his view by an obscure clique.
12 people denying the party membership the right to say whether they think my past is more important than the party's future is fundamentally, unrepresentative and undemocratic.
He's predicting a backlash, and having supported the former minister, the party leadership is clearly embarrassed.
The two main parties have both found this a tortuous and difficult process. We may all have our views about what the upshot should be, but I think most of us realise this is not a very good way to manage events.
I'm sorry, you're not yet chairing the press conference.
The chaos which characterised some of the key events was just part of the problem. Lord Archer was a popular first choice, but his past caught up with him. Now the party's lost the only alternative with the necessary profile and experience.
I think they've lost it. I think they probably knew they'd already lost the mayor's race, and all they want to do is go very quietly.
The Conservative leadership is proud of its record for boosting internal party democracy and devolving decision-making where possible to its local and regional associations. On this occasion, however, it seems that process has backfired, leaving ordinary Conservatives in London with the prospect of seeking the best from a rather poor lot. Gitta Hari, BBC News, Conservative Central Office.
2 British men who made legal history after an American court ruled that they can both be registered as parents have been showing off their twins. Barry Druitt and Tony Barlow, a gay couple from Essex, paid a surrogate mother in California to have the babies.
One set of twins, 2 proud fathers. This is not the conventional nuclear family. Aspen and Saffron were born to Rosalind Bellamy following in vitro fertilisation, but she won't feature on the birth certificate as the children's mother. Instead, Tony Barlow and Barry Druitt will be registered as Parent 1 and Parent 2. They say the weeks leading up to the birth were as anxious for them as for any expectant couple.
Every day of that worrying crazily, wasn't it? Let's get to day 15, let's get to day 20. Once we get past week 6, it should be out. Once we get to week 10,
once we get past week 12, and it's like,
12,
thank God we got to that.
Ahead lies another legal battle to win British nationality for their children. But for now, the couple just want to concentrate on enjoying joint fatherhood. John Brain, BBC News.
Sport now, and it seems there's no escape for England's footballers. They've got to face Germany yet again, this time at next summer's Euro 2000 finals. They'll be joined in Group A by Romania and Portugal following today's draw in Brussels.
Another day, another continent and another draw. But for Kevin Keegan, an amazing feeling of déjà vu. Germany, Romania and Portugal had already been drawn in Group A. So which group would England be in?
A.
Just 5 days after shaking hands with the German coach in Tokyo, Keegan was doing it again. And before the World Cup, England and Germany have an appointment in the second most important tournament in football.
It's amazing, you know, we've had pretty stormy weather around here, and we were saying lightning can't strike twice. Well, I don't think it's been that bad we've had lightning, but it has struck twice, and, you know, it's a fair group.
Did you really expect that you would be drawing England for the second time in a week?
No, I didn't expect, but I can't change it. It's not possible.
After Gareth Southgate's penalty miss in Euro 96, Germany went on to win the championship. The usual story when the old enemies meet. But England also have recent history against them with one of the other teams in the group. Romania beat them 2-1 in Toulouse in the World Cup last year. At least England avoided Group D. Holland, the Czech Republic, France and Denmark are all former European champions. Kevin Keegan doesn't need reminding that since 1966, England have always finished second best to Germany in the major competitions. But in Euro 2000, 2 teams go through after the first stage. So for once, both countries could be winners. Neil Bennett, BBC News, in Brussels.
The boxing legend Muhammad Ali has been voted BBC Sports Personality of the Century. Ali, the 3-time world heavyweight champion, was presented with the award at a ceremony in London tonight.
A standing ovation for Muhammad Ali tonight from sporting greats past and present, for a man whose achievements have transcended boxing. At 57 and suffering from Parkinson's disease, Ali still managed a wave in acknowledgement. There are those who say his finest moment came in 1974 when he upset the odds to knock out George Foreman in the so-called Rumble in the Jungle. But he was never reluctant to remind everyone how good he was.
And I'll whoop any man in the world, and I want everybody out there on TV to know it. I am the greatest.
This evening, recognition from the British public, who gave Ali more votes for Sports Personality of the Century than all the other candidates put together. And then the most poignant moment of all, when he proved he'd lost none of his legendary wit.
I had a good time boxing. I enjoyed it, and I may come back.
Among his peers and sports fans, Muhammad Ali is quite simply the greatest of the greats. Paul Newman, BBC News.
And that's all from the newsroom tonight. Good night.
Good evening to you. Not the greatest of weather, I'm afraid, at the moment. In fact, it's a rather wintry tale. It looks as if there could well be some rain turning to sleet or snow, especially in the southwestern part of Scotland as the night goes on, and do watch out for some icy roads almost anywhere by the end of the night. Now, we've got this band of cloud with some rain, sleet and snow stretched down across the country. It isn't going to move very far during the course of the night. To the north of it, 1 or 2 wintry showers. To the south of it, clearing skies and the wind easing off. So in both those areas, temperatures dipping down below freezing with the wet roads. Of course, as I said, watch out for those icy patches on the roads. And then we'll get this rain, sleet and snow slowly petering out through that central slice. Still around though in the morning, but it'll continue to peter during the day, eventually breaking up and turning showery. Some wintry showers to the north and another little problem to the south, because after a bright start it looks as if some rain's going to run along these southern counties. That rain over the hills could well turn to some sleet or wet snow. And a pretty cold day just about everywhere too, and some cold nights to come with some widespread frost. A very good evening.